Hi, and welcome to the One Piece Wiki podcast. I guess, the host of this, Euphon22.
I'm Xilinoc. I'm a editor on the wiki, and I talk about. I'm on a bunch of podcasts, but I'm here for you today.
I'm MrNinjaStar, and I'm an anime YouTuber that's happy to be on this podcast where we're going to be talking about some One Piece.
And I'm Mountblanc Noland. I'm a chat moderator for One Piece Wiki, and I too am also happy to be on here and finally get to talk about One Piece with other people.
Same.
So I should, may I give a bit of backstory for this podcast?
Oh yeah, of course.
So some of you may know that this podcast was revived for a brief period couple of years ago. I was involved in that, and then it fell through because people just couldn't find times that they were all free to discuss together. So we're going to trying to reboot it again, and hopefully this time, by scheduling properly, we'll actually be able to maintain some uploads this time, and maybe even some interesting content while we're at it. So
I'm definitely excited to have this continue running after this first one. So the topic of conversation for this podcast today is Whole Cake Island as an entire arc, since, as you said before, Xilinoc, the podcast has been on hiatus for a very long time, and now that we have people together that can all talk about One Piece with more passion than anybody really ever needs to hear,
I think
now we can talk about this arc, have a real discussion about
I think the last podcast we were actually still on Whole Cake Island. Like, we just started it before it fell out.
I thought, wasn't it about, how long has the hiatus been actually?
A couple years. I remember making a post about it in 2016, about reviving or whatever, I think. And if you go on the One Piece Wiki YouTube channel, we have our discussions up there. I think it's the chapters where we're talking about the titles. I think we were on this arc or the Zoe arc before it all fell through. So it's been an arc.
Yeah.
We're still in the same place. And in fact, I remember when we started it, they made note that because that was also revivable, and the first time they started the podcast, it was in Dressrosa. When we started it, we were still in Dressrosa. So,
Lord. All right. Well, we're here now, and we're going to talk about Whole Cake Island. So, I guess the first thing that we can start with discussing is the most recent chapter, which isn't quite out on Viz translation yet, but it has been released on Jaimini's box.
And Manga Stream, if you want to support some scumbags.
Yeah.
By the time this podcast goes up, it'll probably already be on Viz, so just go read it on there.
That's what we recommend. But we also we
support
also
the official release.
We completely understand that once unofficial translations come out, you can't really help yourself, and then you just
We also
fall
understand
down
that some
rabbit hole.
readers like just don't have the spare income to spare on supporting official release. Like
There's
I've
also
been there.
that.
I get it.
Yeah. However, we still can discuss the chapter as it stands now.
Yes.
So who wants to start with that?
I guess I could go first. First of all, I guess just broad summary of my thoughts. I loved this chapter. It was easily one of my favorites from a while, because Whole Cake, it's been good, but I haven't really gotten that excited or that interested as this chapter has been in such a while. Like, I think the last one that really got me was probably like 878, 877. And I mean, we got cool chapters here and there, like the Merienda chapter, which was Katakuri's face reveal, but nothing really hit as hard as this one, because this one, it did so many things right. Probably because it was a turning point for Katakuri's character. Like, we saw a lot of development on his side.
Oh yeah.
It was also a turning
Right.
point in the battle, because now Katakuri's began to see Luffy as his equal. And the thing that makes this fight so interesting as a whole compared to the other One Piece fights, it's a battle progression for Luffy, because this is really... Well, he's had, like, other Yonko fights before, like, you know, he fought, or Yonko Commander fights before, like, he fought Cracker earlier in the arc, and that, like, Whole Cake Island, many people, I guess, could see this as pointless, but it's like, they can't just jump into Wano immediately. They need to have at least some type of experience. You need to at least have a basic idea what to expect, and this arc acts as that in between. And this Katakuri fight is going to help Luffy become stronger. It's going to make him a lot wiser of a combatant and boost up his observation haki. So the way the news chapter did it, to where Luffy's now beginning to have a better chance, makes this segue a little bit better into Katakuri or Katakuri's defeat, because some people were saying Katakuri might win. I feel that wouldn't work out, just because like Luffy, I would say he needs to win like one more Yonko Commander battle on his own, because if you really think about it, the battles that he's had before, like the major ones, it wasn't really like he had Nami's help in the Cracker battle. He had all the Dressrosa people helping him out in Dressrosa, so he hasn't had like official tense 1v1 like this. So when he gets out of this battle winning, it's going to be great, and that's why in this chapter it handled it really well. I know I rambled on long enough, but I think you all get what I'm trying to say.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree that like this chapter was amazing, especially for bringing this fight between Luffy and Katakuri to its final moments. And going back to that speculation about how Luffy could have actually lost this fight, I didn't believe in that at all, because yes, the biggest point of this arc was showing exactly what it is that you're going against when you fight a Yonko's crew. And it has done a beautiful job of doing that, and showing, especially through this fight, how much struggle Luffy has been going through, how much he's had to grow within such a short amount of time in order to take on Katakuri. But while it would be a nice testament to how strong these crews can actually be if Luffy lost this fight, I feel like that would also defeat the purpose of the time skip and the past couple of years of One Piece as a whole, showing how much Luffy has grown, how much he's matured, and like the kind of growth that he's had to do over the past couple of arcs and over the past couple of chapters.
Yeah, I certainly agree. I really think that this battle is going to serve as an example for Luffy's training and observation haki, because we've seen a lot of his armament training. I mean, we saw it against really every enemy thus far, including his new gear. But it seems that this fight's really, I mean, it's really pushing the observation thing to the next level with Katakuri's whole seeing the future thing, and Luffy getting hints and bits of that here and there. I think this is really gonna push that ability to the next level.
Xilinoc, do you have any opinions?
I guess, yeah, I'll give my thoughts. So, this was a pretty great chapter, and one that I wasn't quite expecting in terms of like what it did for Katakuri. Because the impression I got from him up until this chapter was that like he's a super badass, super like pragmatic and serious in a fight, and which would sets him apart from like most of the other villains, at least like recently. And he has this goofy side that doesn't want anyone to know about. But like I really did enjoy. I always like it in any sort of story when a villain can kind of get along with the hero for a bit, even if it's as they're fighting. So like when they combine forces to knock out Flampe and her stooges with Haki, I was like, oh hell yeah! So good. Just like they don't know what's gonna come, and it's like bam. And even before that, just when he fucking like stabbed himself, and just like you see his blood splash into his sister, she's like, wait, what? Excuse me? Excuse me, what? I was like, that was some straight Zoro shit, or even like or even some like I can't think of any other person, but it's been done before, but it was still just so like so epic. And then and even as I enjoyed that, like what I found interesting was that people on the subreddit who were discussing it were saying that it might even surpass Luffy versus Lucci from Enies Lobby. And well,
I'm inclined to agree, actually.
And well, I'll say it's definitely like as intense physically, like because Luffy's getting fucked up by Katakuri. He's getting just destroyed. But like, I don't know that it will surpass it emotionally, because here Luffy is mainly fighting he's fighting to protect his crew, but it's mainly it's not as the same as when he was fighting Lucci to protect Robin, because
Yeah,
we all
it's
remember
a different race against
we all
time.
remember how that fight ended with Jet Gatling and the flashbacks to all of his friends and shit. That's in the end that was fucking emotional. That was you could feel the weight of every punch he threw at that point in his raw desperation. I don't get the same feeling from this. I get the feeling that there's mutual respect. I get the feeling that no matter who wins, both parties, and I don't know who will win honestly, but I think both Katakuri and Luffy will accept that outcome and respect it. And I feel there's more growth involved here and shit. But and I feel it's definitely more awesome because of that. But it's not I don't know if it'll have the same weight and ability to be remembered years after it happened, like Luffy versus Lucci did. So we'll see, but I am still enjoying it nonetheless.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it's not that I didn't really have, but this chapter really was a humanizing moment for Katakuri when, before, as you said, he was pragmatic and cold and seemingly, intimidating through feeling like he was impossible to take down.
Uh-huh.
And he felt untouchable. And over these past couple of chapters, after we've seen Luffy hit him around too, and especially during this chapter when he stabbed himself, and it feels like a fight between two people on equal levels.
Yeah.
I didn't think about what that actually meant for Katakuri as a person, rather than as an opponent. That's actually really interesting to think about.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason that there's all these memes for the past few months about Katakuri. It was I'm Luffy but better.
And then look at the Conqueror's Hockey moment where it's him.
Yeah, just I'm not even mad that we didn't get a hint about the hockey before. I don't think we did. It was just it was just so perfect. It's just oh, here we go. Let's just ramp it up for a second.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was definitely an amazing moment and an amazing chapter. I mean, really, this arc has just been amazing as a whole. I honestly, this has been my favorite arc post time skip. There's obviously Enies Lobby from beforehand, which is everybody of course compares every arc to, and because it's that hard to beat. But this arc has been such an emotional roller coaster for me. I have loved every single moment of it.
Mm-hmm. It has its flaws, especially with a lot of the maybe it's just us watching weekly or reading weekly, but it still does feel kind of slow at points.
Oh yeah,
and it did feel certainly pretty repetitive. But I'm sure in the long run it won't be too much of an issue because we'll be seeing it as a whole. I just imagine because the Luffy versus Rob Lucci fight that was 15, 20 chapters in the manga, and obviously it was switching back and forth to other scenes like Zoro versus Kaku and whatnot.
Yeah,
and I just imagine if we were reading that weekly, we wouldn't have had as much of the same payoff as we did when we were binging it. Because let's be real, most of us binge Enies Lobby within a week or whatever.
Oh yeah,
just because it was that good of an arc, and I'm sure with Whole Cake for future fans of the series, it could be a similar instance because this arc may not have seemed like much from the start. Even Zoro's hey, this is just going to be a waste of time, but it has become one of the best in the series.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I would say it's probably my favorite as well. It's up there with Dressrosa because I love Dressrosa, but I think I don't know. We'll have to wait to see how it completes. Who knows? It might be in my top 2, but we'll just have to, I guess, go from there. Do you want to?
There is definitely the future.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce the next topic at hand, or I don't know?
Well, the next topic, I guess, could be our general, complaints about this arc, which I guess I agree. I have felt the fatigue of this, and especially through the past couple of chapters dealing with the Sunny. I love the different bits that they've done, whether it's been the deal with Carrot, whether it's been Jinbei showing off his skills as a helmsman, as a member of this crew, and as just an ally, because I love Jinbei to death. But it's definitely true that you get fatigue from just seeing so many different scenarios where it's oh no, the Straw Hats are really going to get done in this time by the wave, or by Big Mom sitting on top of Zeus, or on top of Prometheus, and you get tired of that. And I definitely agree that this arc has gone on a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I thought that it was going to last about 50 chapters, and now we're sitting at nearly 75.
Although it's probably
And
going to soon.
Yeah, it's definitely reaching its end.
Probably around 900, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably.
People have been saying that it's going to end for, I think, 4 or 5 months now. Even Oda and his editors thought that they would be able to get through Reverie and start Wano soon, but...
Dressrosa, officially ended at, 800, because it was a big milestone of a chapter. I imagine it'll be around the same here. That's why.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, too. Probably end this and then jump right into Reverie, just because it's such a significant event. And they always put the biggest things on the 100 chapters, so...
Yeah. If they are going to end this within 7 chapters, I'd like to see how much progress they can get in within such a little time, especially having to deal with the end of this fight and getting onto the Sunny, which the one mirror on Coco Island is surrounded by everybody in town and Oven. And then we also have to focus on Beji with the cake, because he's chasing away Big Mom, and then he plans on attacking her afterwards, which we don't even know how that's going to play out, if it does play out.
Yeah.
I'd like to see this arc reach its end, but I honestly don't see by chapter 900 how much they'd actually be able to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fair. May I voice my complaints if we're doing that? So
go ahead.
I was discussing with Euphon before we started. So I'm not I've never really understood the fatigue thing of manga or for arcs. Even for Dressrosa, I was never oh, I just want this to get over with. Why are we still here? And the same here. Even as we've reached into the 70s of chapters, I've never been oh man, I just want to go to a different location or a new plot. I will say, and it might, I'm trying to phrase this right, is that even though the emotional moments Sanji versus Luffy, and Sanji's backstory, and other shit and I imagine as the anime comes out will have been super hard hitting. It feels like a cheaper take on the Robin arc from pre-time skip
or Water 7.
Because it's a similar thing where someone's one of the crew is taken away and they got to get him back and get him to rejoin the crew.
Yeah.
And it's definitely different here because it's different circumstances and it's not as easy to just get out of and all that, but
yeah,
I don't know. I think about how easy kind of it was to turn Sanji back to the crew here, and also how everyone knew from the start that even as he was beating the shit out of Luffy that he was still on their side and he didn't want this. And then I think back in Enies Lobby where it was much more gray and Robin was basically doing everything to try and keep him away. And then and then there's that powerful moment where Luffy was tell me from the bottom of your heart what you want, and she's crying. She's I want to live.
Yeah.
And that's that's one of the most tear-jerking and awesome moments in all of One Piece. We didn't really get a moment like that here. I think in what the anime is currently adapting, we're getting to the point where Sanji kind of breaks down and he's I want to go back into the crew after he lists off why he has to stay on Whole Cake Island. And that's fine, but it's not as big.
Yeah.
I would say.
So I think
so it feels like Robin, part 2, but cheaper and faster. I don't know.
I guess one counterpoint to that though is once that was dealt with, this arc became less of a rescue arc. It was initially that from the moment they stepped on Whole Cake Island, they came there for Sanji. And so they went through that whole struggle, and I definitely agree with you that the whole trying to rescue Sanji and up until he said, I want to go back to the Sunny, that wasn't nearly as impactful as it was Enies Lobby, but once that was done, this no longer became about that. This became about showing exactly what it means to just go on to a Yonko's territory like it's nothing.
Yeah,
It's,
you're right,
and it's not
like,
that easy.
and I would agree that everything after that point has been pretty great. Like, I've enjoyed all the shit that's happened, like just Big Mom and her crew showing off how insane they are, and like the assassination plot. Like, I've enjoyed all of that. I don't really have any complaints about that, and that's all. And I'm also not, that critical of a guy, but I would say that just like the premise for this arc, it was a little weak in comparison, but like
Yeah.
everything else, I would say
It's been something that we've just seen before.
It's
been something that we've seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's all my complaints.
Oh, sorry. Nolan, NinjaStar, what complaints do you guys have about this arc, if any?
Like Zill, I'm not really sure of the whole like pacing. I don't really think this has had a lot of pacing issues. I know just generally on subreddits and other One Piece related communities that I've seen that since the time skip, people have had issues with pacing. I know a lot of people complained about it in Punk Hazard, just because there were so few significant characters and like they were on a big snowy island, so it wasn't like there was much like setting change that could really give that pacing a little bit extra, flavor to it. But I haven't really had a problem with that personally. I think my biggest thing in this arc, and Oda has handled it, I think, pretty well so far, aside from splitting up the crew, is that he just has so many characters involved in each thing that it's sometimes hard to keep track. I mean, I know personally, I think that I do it pretty well, but that's just because I also, go read new characters' pages as soon as they're introduced or make their pages, or I keep up with basically every character, including a lot of the unnamed Charlottes or Big Mom Pirates, just for my own amusement. But the fact that I personally was a little annoyed with Bavarios' introduction a couple chapters ago, the boxing guy.
Oh, yeah.
Just because there have been so many interesting character concepts that Oda's created and shown at the wedding and in other instances, but has not really given a name or a face to. And I'm sure we'll get one in a logbook if they ever release another one of those, or if we get an SBS with all the Charlottes. But
Yeah.
to me, it just seems like, I know the man has a wealth of ideas and knowledge, but at some point, you just have to decide that enough is enough. And when there are 42 sons and like 39 daughters, like it makes it. I mean, he's challenging himself and the reader to keep everything straight.
I mean, you're not wrong. Like, it does definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this is a part where I could go into my negatives, but you're not wrong. Like that, he has introduced a lot of characters. And at the beginning of this arc, it wasn't too much of an issue, at least for me. But I feel recently with characters like Flambe being introduced and stuff, it's way too late in the game, to be honest. Like, I feel like he's trying to fit everything into this arc, and I get why, because this is legit. Like, I think this and Zoe are easily the most creative arcs since the time skip, because we haven't really gotten an arc like Skypiea, where it's a lot of the focus is on world building, and the beginning of Whole Cake Island definitely has that fun classic One Piece style to it, and as it progresses, it begins to feel more like a post time skip arc, which is fine. It's hard to call this, like, many people like to compare pre-time skip and post-time skip arcs. Like, some people like saying Dressrosa is the Alabasta of post-time skip. But with this arc, you can't really make it out. Like, one could see it as an Impel Down type arc. One can see it as Enies Lobby. One could see it as like a Skypiea. It's tough to say, and I like that it's its own thing and is kind of drifting from everything else. And that's one of the strongest points.
Yeah.
However, it can feel like it does feel like Oda's trying to cram everything down our throat in this one arc. Like, I get it. We probably aren't going to see a lot of these guys for a while. If any, probably these might just be one arc characters. I mean, I feel like we will see Big Mom yet again in Elbaf. Like, I don't think she's going to be defeated in this arc, but I don't know. Like, there are certain characters where it's just too late in the game to be introducing them, and that kind of goes off with your negative. I guess, like, this is a long arc, and I don't mind long arcs. As long as you do them fine, it can work. Like, Whole Cake Whole Cake's pacing compared to Dressrosa's is so much better. But if you really think about it, Whole Cake is like 70 chapters. It's already like the second longest in the manga. So, I mean, like the whole Big Mom chasing, that stuff did not need to be dragged out the way it was. The whole pudding tsundere thing, that didn't need to be stretched out either. I feel like they were reusing the same jokes, reusing the same concepts, and reusing like the same formula for each chapter for a while. And I feel even if you're binging it, it still will kind of drag and feel like padding to you. That's kind of my major issue. I feel like he's really trying to drag this out, but it's fine because I know he's heading the story in the right direction, even if the execution can be a bit off in certain chapters. But I'm looking forward to see what's come next.
So I guess in contrast to now that we've all discussed what our least favorite things about this arc was, let's go on a lighter side and say what some of our favorite things about this arc was, ranging from the start of it to the end. And for me, I have to say that I absolutely loved both the tea party and the rescue mission to get Brooke in this arc. Both of them were amazing and had amazing outcomes, especially Brooke's part where you get to see how he pulled him through as the MVP of this arc by getting the poneglyph sketches. And then during the tea party, amidst all the chaos, when he destroys the picture of Mother Caramel, I just loved all the events between those two events. Just the tea party itself, the build up to it when they're sitting with Beji and his crew and they're planning it out and they have like that different Discord, and I just love everything about it.
I would say that my favorite thing is motherfucking Katakuri. My boy. I love literally everything about him, which is like a first for any character in this manga. Like, I love his design. It's so fucking badass.
It is.
It's so detailed and like it looks like something out of fucking JoJo or Berserk. I love his. I love that his power is fucking mochi, because
it's such
it looks like guts, bro.
It's like, oh, it's gonna be sweet candy. Like, no, it's actually the Gomu Gomu no Mi, but better. Just infinitely better, because it's a sort of Logia, not really, but whatever. I love his personality that just starts off like totally serious and badass, and makes like it basically makes him like the single greatest challenge to a group of pirates who are not serious all the time. But then you cut to him eating donuts and being like, man, I love eating these jelly-filled donuts. And with his goofy ass giant mouth. And I love that, like, and then as of recently, I love that he actually turns out to have an honorable streak, and that he can relate to Luffy and respect him, because Luffy is treating him like a serious opponent instead of making fun of his mouth or whatever. So yeah, motherfucking Katakuri. I hope that we see more of him after this arc, because goddamn, he's so good.
No, I love him to death too.
Yeah, I really think that we'll see more of him. I mean,
That's it.
Oda doesn't design characters that well and just leave them, set them aside.
Definitely.
I guess second favorite would be the Cracker fight was pretty good, I think.
I remember when the Cracker fight first came out, and so many people were just talking about, just having different speculation about it, and having speculation about Cracker as a whole and how strong he actually was.
Yeah, it was definitely a twist and a half. I remember when it first came out, everyone was like, "Oh, his power is to grow additional arms."
Yeah,
and then it's like, "Oh, actually, it was a biscuit power all along." And it turns out that it's an episode of children's nursery rhyme, because that's what fucking Oda does. He's just like put in fucking everything as a power. So, yeah, fucking crackers and mochi as powers. So someone on the Reddit for this week's chapter is like, so, Oda, what's the final boss's power going to be? He's like, socks.
Socks.
And it's like, oh, fuck. Shit's going down. So, yeah, that's my bit.
All right, Nolan, Ninja Star?
Yo, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you want to go? No, you can go, Ninja.
Okay, so I guess there's a lot of things I love about this arc, but I think my favorite part is the progression, because I talked about earlier how Luffy's major fight with Katakuri is a progression battle, and that this arc has been a progression style arc, because at the beginning it seemed kind of lighthearted. I mean, sure, we get like Big Mom here and there and her craziness, but for the most part, like I said, it had a lot of world building, it had a lot of fun to it, and then we actually see stuff like the Cracker fight where Luffy's really in a tense position, and he only barely won with the help of Nami. So this arc definitely has that, and then we have the Sanji fight, which was so emotional, just got us so much, and we can see what this arc's really about. It had so many different story concepts going for it. As a result, it did end up being longer than what we probably anticipated, but regardless, it still had great execution, great ideas. I think the wedding was great. It's not my favorite part of this arc. I think my favorite is that progression and Katakuri. Like, Katakuri is just too great of a character. Like, I don't know if we're gonna see him again sometime in the future, but that would be sick. Like, just get like a Katakuri cover story or something. I would love that. But regardless, though, the wedding was great. I enjoyed it for what it was. Like, I don't think I got the same amount of hype as everyone else because I binged through the wedding rather than reading week to week, and I know how exciting it was reading that week to week, but it was still probably one of the strongest points of this arc. And then we actually get to the then we have like a slow period of chapters, but then it started to pick up again, and here we are now. I've liked what they've been doing, and also it gives more leeway for Jinbei to join the Straw Hats. Man, so much stuff has happened. Dolan, you can go from here.
Yeah, you're right. A lot really has happened. It's amazing how much Oda has been able to pack in here, both different events, different groups of characters, how many thematic elements he's done. But I appreciate that, but I think one of the things that is my most favorite, and I know this was also my complaint, was just how many characters he's made and how diverse his designs really are, because he can make it, he can make an entire arc's worth of characters and an entire Yonko family and crew all based off of food. And, most, I really don't think most, mangaka would really take that initiative, or not even initiative, but that risk of creating all of these ridiculous characters and making them, so strong, but so interesting. And not only have we seen a diversity of visual concepts, I mean, the fact that I don't understand how anyone's supposed to expect Katakuri, Defuku, and Oven to actually be triplets, but, Oda said that they were, so now I guess they are, but we've seen a lot of interesting... Yeah, we've seen a lot of interesting personality differences through all of these characters. The fact that Katakuri is very honorable when, he's got Cracker and some of his other siblings are a little bit lesser so. Perospero is...
I can't stand Perospero, actually. I just don't feel that there's much unique to him, especially because of his powers. Like,
Jesus.
Every single time I see them, I always compare them to Mr. 3 or Galdino's powers. Especially because how he makes those candy walls, and every time I see it, I have it play in my head the same way that Mr. 3 would scream all goofy wise, "Candle wall!" I read it the exact same way, but as Perospero's voice. I just don't know. I agree with you, Nolan, that the characters in this arc have been creative and unique, and you can definitely tell that Oda had so much fun creating all the different characters throughout this arc. But then ultimately, some of them I did just find kind of weird or useless.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, the first son of Big Mom they introduce, they kill off immediately, like Moscato, and
yeah,
then
fair.
some of the then they take Opera, who they actually gave a little bit more screen time and development, and they off him too, and I don't know, it's just it's funny how Oda does that. But even outside of the actual Charlotte family, I've loved the Vinsmokes. I've loved getting to see more of Beige's crew. I mean, even if we just get Vito and Gotti, I'll take that any day, because Beige has been my favorite Supernova since Sabati, which was an unpopular opinion at that time, but now I feel like I'm in good company with a lot of the One Piece community.
He's definitely one of the MVPs of this arc. I actually love the screen time that he's gotten, because I was interested in him when he was initially introduced in Sabaody, but I never really gave him that much thought just because he wasn't given that much screen time beyond his introduction. And I love the time that they've given him in this arc between setting up for the Tea Party, the aftermath of the Tea Party where he was escaping, and how he's helped the Straw Hats since then, despite wanting to. He just kind of does it begrudgingly, but at the same time, you can tell the honor behind him as the whole, gangster vibe that he has. He's been wonderful.
I absolutely love his relationship with his family, with his son and his wife. It's just such a funny dynamic. This hardened gangster, this badass, making baby noises and yeah.
I will never not.
You were saying Xilinoc?
I will never not be impressed by. I'll never not be impressed by Oda being able to make any villain into someone we can root for. Because I remember when they were I remember distinctly when they were setting up the
oh my god, yeah,
between the Straw Hats about what to do. Jinbei was explaining how when he was a kid he tortured cats and shit for fun and just kill people left and right. Now we're and now we're just fuck yeah, Beige, my boy. Okay.
The same thing with Duval and Bartolomeo, and I'm sure when we get to Wano eventually, we're gonna have the same relationship with Kid. People are, Louis gonna want to help him. People are gonna start liking him so much more. But Kid is an actual savage, and I don't mean that as a badass kind of thing. He's badass, but he literally is nuts and crazy and kills people. But it's it's just a testament to terrific
they're
writing.
Just mass murderers, and then they're just fucking getting using for comic relief, and we're okay.
Yeah,
say so.
It's definitely one of the overlying themes throughout One Piece, in that evil is subjective. That's something that Oda always loves to push, is that yeah, people do terrible things, but ultimately, in the end, it's up to just your own judgment of character and what their actions means to you. And sometimes we've had really subtle bits of that through, like you said, Kid or Katakuri, through the things that he's done and the power that he has, but ultimately he's still a goofy character. Or you've had really frank bits of showing exactly what that means, Doflamingo's speech during Marineford, where he pretty much said that evil is subjective, that justice goes to whoever is the winner. And it's always nice seeing some of the more subtle bits of that, rather than having it actually put on the screen in front of your face.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen that personally a lot in Oda's the contrast that Oda does with different Fishman characters. You've got Hody and his crew, and you've got Arlong, but there's a reason why they're so violent against humans, and there's a reason why they're so, unforgiving to people that don't follow their ideology.
Except Hody. He literally said there was no reason for him. Just an asshole.
I think
he was just terrible.
Well, I think the issue with Hody is that he was socialized into hating humans by growing up in the Fishman district and
right. That's true.
So it's all a product of the environment that they've been raised in, and honestly,
exactly.
Oda's ability to do that with not only those characters, but with so many others in the series in so many different circumstances, that it shows how to word this. He reflects real life pretty well, and how complex individuals and relationships can be, and the fact that really no one is truly evil.
Right. It's just a matter of influence and stuff.
He's on the spectrum of nature versus nurture. I think he's definitely a nurture kind of guy.
No one is truly evil except Spandam. Fuck Spandam. There is no redemption for him ever.
Well, he has been put off as comic relief now. Where he belongs. Everybody has talked about their favorite parts of this arc, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to. Okay, so I guess now another thing to talk about is what this arc has done for the Straw Hats as a whole, or the Straw Hats that have come along, especially the stuff with Nami and how she has really played a big part of this arc, and Chopper and Brook, and then the allies that have come in, Pedro, Carrot, and Jinbei, who is unofficially part of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, that's right, my boy Pedro. My other favorite part about this arc.
He was great.
I almost I forgot about him because he quote unquote died. Or I don't even know if he's really dead, but he's been gone for a while now. But oh my god, I love
I do
Pedro
wonder
so
about
much.
that. I know that that people have put it off now since we've moved on to other things. But I actually am wondering if Pedro is dead or if Oda's gonna pull another Oda and have him, at the end of the arc, once everything's said and done, you see the silhouette of a jaguar.
I mean,
Yeah.
pre-time skip, I've been like, oh, are you playing? But like, he's killed a lot of people in this arc alone. So I think he's moving away from the whole like everyone lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I could just give my take here. I really like what the Straw Hats have been doing, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of funny. I think because the Straw Hats have been split up for quite a while. It's interesting to look back and see, okay, so half of the Straw Hats in Dressrosa versus half of the Straw Hats in Whole Cake Island. Which had better development? I think it's pretty obvious Whole Cake Island, because in Dressrosa, don't get me wrong, Usopp had some great moments, Zoro had some great moments, Frankie had a fantastic fight, people like Robin,
Oh yeah.
aside from the Totonata thing, there wasn't much. Like, it's just kind of surfacey, if that makes sense. Whereas with this arc, you saw what Brook did. Brook was an MVP. Nami came in clutch.
Brook, my boy. Oh my lord, it's the year of Brook.
Yeah, what's it? Nami came in clutch at so many points. We have Jinbei and Kara coming in as new Straw Hats. We have some great time for Luffy. Sanji gets so much depth to him, especially in like the first half of this arc. It's crazy. Like, they've established the characters so well, way better than Dressrosa in my opinion. Because I mean, I like Dressrosa. It's a great arc, but well, when it comes down to handling your characters and showing off the best that you can, I think this arc's done a lot better. Which is funny because it's actually a shorter one, but whatever. I've been so impressed with how they've handled in with Wano. I don't know if we're ever going to see these characters get major shine again. I mean, we're probably going to get little moments here and there. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about Chopper. Chopper's he was kind of there, but not too prominent. But
Yeah,
back to
Chopper didn't get much this arc.
but yeah. What's it? I feel from here on out, I think the whole purpose for these individual like splits between the Straw Hat crew were to show specific screen time for each character. And obviously we didn't get much for characters like Robin and Dressrosa and Chopper in this arc, but those can easily be built up for other people. So we need arcs like this that kind of give us some showtime, because even though Fishman Island was meant to show off the Straw Hat's ability, we see the best of their abilities when they're in a tense position and there's actually some tension, and this arc handled it really well. I loved it. I've kind of been repeating myself, but you all get what I mean. So yeah, that's what I had to say.
Nolan, do you have anything to say about... Oh, never mind. He had to drop out of the call for a second. Oh,
Won't say what you were going to say.
yeah.
Are you for real?
Well, I
Back
think
for real?
Nolan's trying to sort out his audio, but in the meanwhile, I guess we can discuss the characters. Oh, okay, you are?
Yeah, I got it fixed. Don't worry.
Okay. So then, what do you have any thoughts about just the screen time that the Straw Hats have gotten, and just their growth throughout this arc?
Well, I think this arc has been a really nice time for development when you look at it compared to Dressrosa, where, really, I hope this isn't the pattern for the future with this series, but Oda's really made up for lost time for everyone that was basically non-present during Dressrosa. Everyone's really gotten pretty good, interesting moments, except for Chopper, besides what he did besides his thing in Bru Lee's house. He hasn't done much, but we've gotten so much from Brook that I could not be happier with how Oda's chosen to go with this arc. Just because,
I remember yeah.
I mean, Brook's probably my favorite Straw Hat, and now he totally is. So, I mean, he's just pulled out all the stops for that guy, and it makes sense that Brook has done so much and can do so much because he was a pirate before, and he has experience, and thankfully Oda didn't just decide to shaft him off into being a weak member of the crew or being comic relief like he was for most of the time skip up to this point. So it's nice to see him getting some real...
I definitely remember I remember before this arc when everybody would talk, especially during Dressrosa, when people wanted to see Brook again, that he was the one that everybody talked about. They're like, I love Brook to death from his introduction. You know, he was my favorite Straw Hat, and he just hasn't been given like the right spotlight in either Fishman Island or Punk Hazard. And I think this arc was more than enough to satiate everybody's desire to see more action out of Brook. Because we really have. He has done so many amazing things during this arc.
I mean, everyone was blown away when he went toe to toe with Big Mom, or at least lasted long enough that he didn't die. So, you know, and then on top, everything on top of that, which we've
that
already
badass
discussed,
pose.
It's been pleasant, and even Nami, who didn't really get anything until her stuff with Zeus during like their escape from the wedding in the island. At least that has been something new and pretty refreshing for her character, who most people have kind of written off in the time skip as more or less fan service, and thankfully that's not the case.
Yeah,
indeed.
Does anybody have? Oh, sorry, NinjaStar, keep going.
I was just gonna say, you wanna you have any more topics for us to talk about, or do you think we can wrap this up?
I think that's everything that
I think we're good.
that we can talk about today. I think we had some really good discussion about this arc. There's definitely always more to talk about because so many other things happen in this arc beyond what we've already discussed. But I think for today we should be good. I'm happy with the amount of talk that we've had today and talking with you guys.
Yeah, same.
So that's everything for this recording or this edition of the One Piece Wiki podcast. We'll see you all soon once we have decided to come together and have another discussion about this amazing, beautiful series.
Peace.
Bye.